Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, back in mid-70s, when I was an RCMP officer, I was stationed in Fort St. James, and I saw the outbreak of the pine beetle in one of the provincial parks in British Columbia. And I remember some of the people that I knew in the area that I was working had stated, forestry personnel said that we should burn that portion of the park and try to destroy the pine beetle before it spread. Well, because it was a park, that was ruled against them. And I watched over the 35 years that I lived in British Columbia, worked in British Columbia, I watched the pine beetle spread right across that province, where it's destroyed close to 16 million hectares of BC's forest. The pine beetle is an epidemic. I then watched this summer as BC burnt up because of the pine beetle, the dead forest trees. And it was sad to see a place that I spent so many years of my life and worked from one corner to the other burn up. But now, Mr. Speaker, over the last 3 years, since I've been in government, I've watched the pine beetle move from British Columbia into Jasper National Park. I was very concerned when I heard they were in the park, and I went and I watched them at Mount Robinson, and I saw them within a year slowly move towards the town site of Jasper. Within the next year, I saw them move past the town site towards the eastern entrance of the park. And because of this, Mr. Speaker, I brought it to the attention of a number of different officials within the government of today and when we were in government. Now, Jasper Park has turned brown from one end to the other. You drive through the park and it's brown. The trees are dead, they're dying. People that work in Jasper Park, lodge owners, townspeople, fear for the safety of their community because of the dead pine trees right around the town of Jasper. In fact, there are roads that are maybe 25 feet wide with high dead pine trees coming out of some of the lodges. And if the fire started, people will not be able to get out of there. For 2 years, I've been calling on the Minister of Environment and Climate Change to develop an action plan to stop the spread of pine beetles in the park, but we are still waiting for a response. We slowly saw in the last couple of years the pine beetle moving from Jasper Park into the forest sector of Alberta's foothills. And it is spreading. We've been keeping them under control. The forestry companies, the province of Alberta Forestry Department have been working feverishly, culling the trees that they found that are being infested by the pine beetle coming out of the park. But you know, Mr. Speaker, they've gone rampant. We did about 40,000 trees last year that I climbed. This year, there's over 540,000 trees counted with pine beetle, and they're spreading rapidly. Last Friday, I brought this issue up for the 4th time in 2 years at question period. This does not count for the other times I brought it up in debates both here and while I was on the Environment Committee. I've also written letters to the Minister of Environment, and on May 2016, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister said he would be willing to sit down with me to discuss this issue. That's never happened. In June of this year, the Minister said here in this House she looked forward to discussing it further when I brought it up. But I've had repeatedly bring up the pine beetle up because there have been no talk and no action. Our environment is at stake. Tens of thousands of jobs are coming up, Mr. Speaker. I think I'm running out of time by the looks of that. Thank you.